Let's get into it. Oh man, DOJ is under a lot of fire right now. DOJ is under a lot of heat. Pam Bundy is under a lot of heat. And so this administration is under a lot of scrutiny right now, a lot of fire. And we're going to talk about it. We're going to listen to it and we're going to talk about it. And we're going to let everybody know what's happening. I'm sure a lot of people already know what's going on. But to those who are not paying attention to what's going on right now in the DOJ, um, trust and believe that this will be well worth your time. And this is something that everyone should be paying attention to because this right here proves that um, this administration did not choose the right leadership to put in place for such important positions of government. So we're gonna be getting into it, man. Um, DOJ is under a lot of scrutiny right now. They're under a lot of fire with the Epstein files and the redactions that's been taking place. The American people is wondering why are we seeing so many redactions, right? Why is transparency not taking place? So we're gonna be talking about this. We're gonna be listening in to some of this. So first off, though, just to set the tone, um, we're gonna get into Obama, the 44th president of the United States, Barack Obama. He came out of the woodworks and he dropped the bombshell on us, y'all. He came out and he spoke about what's going on in the country right now. So we're gonna get into this video with Barack Obama, and so we're gonna play it right here because I think this right here will sort of set the tone. What's going on, Tyler? What's up, buddy? How you doing? But we're gonna go ahead and get into this video right here before we get into DOJ, Doge, and what they got going on. They're under a lot of scrutiny right now. But before we get into all of that with DOJ and Pam Bundy, we're gonna go ahead and play the video by the 44th president Barack Obama, and just sort of set the tone of the live show tonight. So you the first one in here for once? What? Dang! Shout out to you, bro. Shout out to you, Tyler. But this right here will set the tone for the night. We're gonna go ahead and get this video started right now before we dive into DOJ and the scrutiny and Pam Bundy. She's underneath a lot of heat right now. So we're gonna go ahead and set the tone with this Barack Obama, the 44th president. He came out and he has something to say. He has something to say. So let's listen in on the 44th president of the United States of America.
It is my honor to be joined by the 44th President of the United States, Barack Obama. Mr. President, thanks so much for joining me.
It is wonderful to be here, Brian. Thank you for having me.
So, as you know better than anybody, the discourse has devolved into a level of cruelty that we haven't seen before. What was disqualifying just a few years ago now not only feels fine, acceptable, but actually rewarded.
Yep.
You have administration officials saying that the victims of ISIS aggression are domestic terrorists. You have J.D. Vance coming out and saying that it's okay. You don't have to apologize for being white. Just days ago, Donald Trump put a picture of your face on an ape's body. And so again, this is kind of, we've seen the de-evolution of the discourse. How do we come back from a place that we have fallen into?
Well, first of all, I think it's important to recognize that the majority of the American people find this behavior deeply troubling.
Right.
It is true that it gets attention. It's true that it's a distraction. But, as I'm traveling around the country, as you're traveling around the country, you meet people. They still believe in decency, courtesy, kindness, and there's this sort of clown show that's happening in social media and on television, and what is true is that there doesn't seem to be any shame about this among people who used to feel like you had to have some sort of decorum and a sense of propriety and respect for the office, right? So that's been lost. But the reason I point out that I don't think the majority of the American people approve of this is because ultimately the answer is going to come from the American people.
Right.
And we just saw this in Minnesota and Minneapolis. It is important for us to recognize the
hit that like button, chat. Hit that like button.
Unprecedented nature of what ICE was doing in Minneapolis, St. Paul, the way that federal agents, ICE agents, were being deployed without any clear guidelines, training, pulling people off, out of their
Dr.
homes,
Ball?
using 5-year-olds to try to
Bait their parents.
All the stuff that we saw.
Right.
Tear gassing crowds simply who were standing there, not breaking any laws. So the rogue behavior of agents of the federal government is deeply concerning and dangerous. But we should take a moment to appreciate the extraordinary outpouring of organizing, community building, decency, neighbors buying groceries for folks, accompanying children to school, teachers who were standing up for their kids, not just randomly, but in a systematic, organized way. Citizens saying, this is not the America we believe in.
Right.
And we're going to fight back, and we're going to push back with the truth and with cameras and with peaceful protests and shining a light on the sort of behavior that in the past we've seen in authoritarian countries and we've seen in
Good evening.
dictatorships, but we have not seen in America.
How you doing, Cynthia?
That kind of heroic, sustained behavior in sub-zero weather by ordinary people is what should give us hope. And it should remind us that at the end of the day, the way we get a democracy that's working, the way we get policies that actually are helping working families get ahead, the way that we restore norms.
Not my America.
It's going to be because we citizens are activated and paying attention and saying enough and saying, we have a different idea of what the American family should look like and community should look like. And
hello.
That is
Good
what
evening.
I'm seeing across the board. So, I was on a panel a while back, and I said, a lot of the values that we say we subscribe to.
Come on.
During easy times, during peaceful times.
Right.
It's easy to say we believe in those things.
Right. When they're not challenged.
When they're not challenged. It's easy to believe in free speech when it doesn't seem like the government's trying to crack down on free speech. It's easy to say that we believe in the golden rule when we aren't at risk of being arrested when we exercise the golden rule.
Come on, talk about it.
Right now we're being tested. And the good news is what we saw in Minneapolis and St. Paul, and what we're seeing in places across the country, including here in Los Angeles, has been the American people saying, no, you know what, at least a good number of the American people saying, we're going to live up to those values that we say we believe in. And as long as we have folks doing that, I feel like we're going to get through this.
So I hear and appreciate what you're saying about the agency of individuals. as we look toward our elected officials, our Democratic
I'll tell y'all
leaders,
what.
I think something that I've been having a lot of trouble reconciling.
I'll tell y'all what, man. The 44th president of the United States, Barack Obama, couldn't have picked a better time to come out and make a statement about the climate of our country right now. He couldn't have picked a better time. Shout out to everybody that's in the chat right now. We're going to get back into this video right now. We're going to be talking about DOJ. We're going to be talking about Pam Bondi. But I wanted to kick the live off with the 44th president of the United States as he offered his insight on the plight of our country right now, as he offered his insight on what he thinks is happening and where we're going as a country. Hit that like button, guys. We're almost up to 10 likes. Hit that like button. We're going to get right back into the video right now. Here we go.
For so long, it's felt like Democrats are solely focused on protecting norms, institutions,
Right.
processes, and then you've got a Republican Party that sees what it wants and will find a way to get it. Laws be damned, Constitution be
Right.
damned, rules be damned. And we're seeing that play out right now. And so, given this massive asymmetry, where it often leaves us feeling like it's a Lucy pulling the football away from Charlie Brown over and over and over again situation, what needs to be done? And do you think that our Democratic leadership and our Democratic elected officials understand that for the first time?
Well, look, I think we have to. We've got the harder job, right? So we believe in government as a tool for good, as a potential force to create more jobs, and as a way to make sure that the planet doesn't roast, to make sure that as we move forward and the economy grows, that everybody and not just some are benefiting, and the kids are getting a good education. And what that means is that we have to think about the consequences of our actions. We have to try to figure out how do we get working majorities to actually pass laws and to implement those laws and to make things happen. Tearing stuff down doesn't require all that. So when you talk about Republicans, for example, it seems like they see what they want and they just go after it. Well, they've passed one significant piece of legislation since they've been, for all the hoopla. They haven't actually codified and institutionalized much of anything. They have poured a huge amount of money into ICE and their immigration agenda. And they've cut taxes for really wealthy people. And now they're trying to unravel a bunch of rules and norms and laws that are already in place. Mm-hmm. That's an easier job. So I say that because we should accept the responsibility and the challenge that our job's going to be a little bit harder. Because in order for us to get stuff done, like let's say the Affordable Care Act, well, we've got to cobble together a majority, and we've got to persuade, and we've got to convince. And so I do think that there's been some unwillingness on the part of Democrats in the past to break down some of the stuff done, just because, well, it's always been done that way. And I'll give you an example that frustrated the heck out of me when I was president, which was the filibuster in the Senate. The Senate is already structurally skewed and anti-majoritarian, right? It's hard for majorities to get stuff done, whether it's trying to pass civil rights legislation in the 60s or trying to get gun control legislation or what have you, because even though majority of people support it, Delaware and Wyoming have the same number of senators as California. Yeah. Right. All right. So that would require a constitutional amendment. You then compound that with a filibuster. And the truth is that Democrats for some time have been traditionalists in wanting to preserve that. when it blocks us from making government effective, which in turn makes people feel like government is corrupt and not caring about them.
Right.
Which lends itself
Which
to the
then lends
Republicans.
itself to the kind of it gives folks like Trump an opening.
Yeah.
Right. So
Mm.
redistricting is another good example of where I strongly believe we should not be having politicians draw lines that determine who's voting for them. We should have voters decide who their politicians are.
Come on.
And I've worked with Eric Holder to help set up the terrific work that the NDRC has been doing to try to make sure that we have fair maps. But the fact that Governor Newsom here in California and others said, well, if they're going to try to gerrymander their way out of losing this upcoming midterm, then we're going to respond. And we're going to respond in a lawful way where we put it up to a referendum and let people decide and not just give away the store because of traditions. And that was the right response. So I do think that I don't want us to simply duplicate the behavior of the other side.
Right.
I don't want us to have a slash and burn strategy where we don't care about rule of law. We don't care about some of the guardrails around our democracy. We start lying and having no regard for the truth the way the other side seems to be comfortable with right now. Because if that's how we fight, then we lose what we're fighting for.
Come on.
But that doesn't mean we have to get punked or be saps. And I do, or to cling to traditions just for the sake of tradition. I think what we have to continually evaluate is, in this moment in time, how do we make sure that we can advance our agenda in a way that reflects what's good for ordinary folks, not special interests, not simply the well-to-do, and how do we do that in a way that's consistent with integrity, honesty, democracy, the values that we claim to want to uphold? And I think it's possible to do that. But the reason I started with reminding ourselves, yes, we have a harder job because sometimes I think we're tough on Democrats, saying, why aren't you being as mean and tough and nasty as they are? Well, it's when I was president of the United States, I suppose I could have simply unilaterally ordered the military to, go into some red state and harass and intimidate a governor there, or cut off funding for states that didn't vote for me. I could have exercised that prerogative, but that is contrary to how I think our democracy is supposed to work.
Come on.
And I think we shouldn't get discouraged by the fact that we have a tougher job. What we should do is expect that our side is smart enough to figure it out.
So you had mentioned persuasion, and I think that that's a really good point here, because as we eventually head toward a next general that feels like it always consumes the left.
Well, look, first of all, I think it's important to remember that
Put a 1 in the chat if you can still hear me. Put a 1 in the chat if you still can hear everything.
magnified in the media. Relative to the divides that exist in most other countries, where you have a parliamentary system, you have multiple parties, and you got Green Party, and you got the center left party, and you've got a socialist party, and sometimes you got a communist party.
Put a one in the chat if you can hear. Put a one in the chat if you can hear us. Put a one in the chat if you can hear us.
Bernie Sanders believes, just like Nancy Pelosi believes, just like Chuck Schumer believes, just like Hakeem Jeffries believes, just like AOC believes, in equality and non-discrimination against people because of race or gender or sexual orientation. Well, all Democrats believe in that. That's a core value. Democrats believe that government should provide a strong safety net for people when they're down on their luck. Everybody I just mentioned believes in that. Everybody believes
I have no clue, Dr. Balls.
should be some regulation of the market so that you don't have monopolies and oligopolies that are simply dictating the terms of the economy.
Dr. Balls, can you hear? Can you still hear everything, Dr. Balls?
That levels out some of the inequalities that result. So I think it's important for us to remind ourselves as a starting point, what do we have in common? Most of the time, the differences are tactical. Right? It has to do with, well,
thank you, sir.
How much of a tax hike can people put up with? How much regulation should we be thinking about when it comes to climate change? And if we recognize that typically the arguments in the Democratic Party aren't about core values, but are really around tactics and how do you get stuff done. Now we can have a robust debate, and I want a robust debate.
Yeah.
And what we can also do is not try to nationalize every issue all the time.
Right.
This last off-year election, I think, was a great example. You know, you've got a candidate like Spanberger in Virginia, who runs what would be considered a more centrist campaign and runs a terrific campaign. And then you've got Mondami in New York, who runs a explicitly socialist grassroots campaign and excites and mobilizes folks. And that can win in New York City. It probably could not win in Virginia. And that's okay. That's healthy.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think we get into arguments. A recent one, this idea that the quote unquote abundance agenda is somehow a sellout, and folks on the left getting exercised because this is part of this sort of corporate Democrats trying to take over the party. Well, no, not really. What I think it is entirely legitimate to say, for example, we need to build more affordable housing, which is going to require higher taxes on people like me and people who are well off in order to subsidize the construction of affordable housing, let's say in a place like California, and also be able to say, you know what, there are a bunch of well-intentioned rules and zoning laws and so forth that baby boomers like me and existing homeowners have used to block the construction of affordable housing, even in democratic cities. And so if we want to actually deliver housing rather than have some abstract argument, then we got to figure out not an either or, do we spend more money or do we reform some of these things that are preventing the construction of affordable housing? We have to do both. And I want us to have those arguments. And one last thing I think that's I've noticed in a lot of our internal arguments, a lot of which, by the way, are taking place on
Connor?
ordinary
How you doing, brother?
voters. This is all completely off their radar screen. One of the things I think it's important for Democrats, for us also to recognize, progressives to recognize.
What's up, Sean? How you doing, Sean?
It's possible for us to have a moral sense of what is right and true and what needs to be done, and also recognize that we are in a particular time and place here in America, and voters are not going to agree with us 100% on everything. And so it is not a sellout. It's not a betrayal to say that we're going to shape our agenda and our message in a way that allows us to build a working majority to get stuff done. And I think particularly around social issues, sometimes we get confused around this. You witness what happened in Minneapolis, and you say to yourself, morally speaking, that 5-year-old child who's standing in front of that SUV as his father's being dragged off, that child is equal to mine or any child. His immigration status, his nationality, does not change the love and decency that we should be showing that child. But what is also true is that we're a nation of laws, we have borders, and we've got to figure out an immigration policy that is orderly and that is fair and is enforced in a sensible way that is compatible with our values, but may not fully capture the degree to which that kid should have the same chances in life as a U.S. citizen kid. But, we've got to accommodate the reality that the majority of American people think that there's a difference between somebody who's a U.S. citizen and somebody who's not, and that they want an orderly immigration system. And sometimes I think what happens in the online debate is if somebody suggests, well, we have to have some immigration enforcement, then somebody's going to point at that child and say, well, so you don't care about that kid. Yeah. So you must be a bad person. The same would be true, let's say, here in Los Angeles around the homeless issue. I think morally, ethically speaking, it is an atrocity that in a country this wealthy, we have people just on the streets. And we should have we should insist on policies that recognize their full humanity, people who are houseless, and be able to provide them the help and resources that they need. But we should also recognize that the average person, doesn't want to have to navigate around a tent city in the middle of downtown. And that we're not going to be able to build a working majority and support for the resources that we need to help folks like that, whether it's drug treatment or temporary housing or what have you. We're not going to be able to generate support for it if we simply say, you know what, it's not their fault, and so they should be able to do whatever they want, because that's a losing political strategy. That doesn't mean that we care less about those folks. It means that if we really care about them, then we got to try to figure out how do we gain majority support and be practical in terms of what we can get through at this moment in time and build on those victories. That a lot of times is the arguments that are taking place, but they become sort of performative, and people start saying, oh, you're selling out, or conversely, I think sometimes folks at the center say, you're being impractical and dismissing legitimate critiques and concerns. And then what we need to be able to do is to maintain both ideas at the same time, which is our long-term goals have to be driven by our values and our core beliefs and our ethics and our morals, in the sense that every person counts. And short-term, we got to win elections.
Right.
And anyway, the good news is, I think that the folks that we are fighting politically, the current White House, this administration, and their enablers, they're behaving so badly, they're doing such crazy stuff, that it shouldn't be hard for our side to coalesce around the areas where we agree on and focus on that. And I think that that is going to happen if we are effective in winning the midterms. if we then have a robust primary for who's going to be the next Democratic president, we shouldn't be afraid of having a robust debate. I want all comers to sort this out. I benefited from having about as grueling a primary as I could have. It made me a better candidate. It ultimately made me a better president because I had been tested. My ideas had been tested. The story I was telling about America had been tested. And that's what we should be looking for, rather than expecting that somehow we're going to all come up with some consensus blueprint master plan that everybody's going to execute. Democrats aren't good at doing that anyway.
Yeah. Well, I think, one block of voters who I think there has been particular focus paid on.
What's up, Sterling?
Right now is young voters. And, you were able to mobilize a generation of young voters in a way that hadn't been done before. I got involved in politics because of you. And in fact, a lot of millennials, folks my age, got involved in politics because of you. Like when I was a student, you could not find any other students on campus who were not supporting your campaign. Democrats and you had owned the cultural zeitgeist in a way that hadn't been done before, and frankly hasn't been done since. And we've seen a shift happen, obviously, from 2008, 2012 up to 2024.
Right. And
for the first time, we saw Democrats really lose their grip on culture in a way that hadn't happened before. And so what is your advice in terms of remobilizing a generation of Americans that we've had trouble mobilizing up to this point?
Well, look, part of it has to do with the fact that I was young.
Yeah.
So
maybe don't nominate.
Look, I'm 64 now. I'm pretty healthy, 64. Feel great.
Yeah.
But the truth is, half of the references that my daughters make about social media, TikTok, etc., I don't know who they're talking about.
Yeah.
There is a element of, at some point, you age out. You're not connected directly to the immediate struggles that folks are going through. And so I'm not making a hard and fast rule here, but I do think that Democrats do well when we have candidates who are plugged into the moment, to the zeitgeist, to the and the particular struggles that folks are thinking about as they look towards the future rather than look backward toward the past. And so some of it is choosing candidates who check that box. I do think that there is an element of joy that Democrats lost sometimes. Our campaign was fun. We had it wasn't always fun for me, but we built a community. We gave people a sense that if you are part of this,
hello,
you're doing something meaningful.
Good evening, everybody. Hit that like button.
Young people ran our campaigns. We empowered them. We put them in charge. They were out there figuring stuff out. I'm not the person who was figuring out our media's strategy. I was not the person who was out there, knocking on doors and talking to voters and creating events. It was 20 and 30-year-olds. And so what happened in our campaign, and what you recently saw in Mondami's campaign in New York, when there's that sense of joy,
what's up, Chloe,
and engagement and involvement, then people feel like, all right, this is not just some
thank you, Connor, thank you,
grind. This is me becoming part of a community and joining with others. And I think young people respond to that. And then a corollary to that is I do think that culturally, and I've talked about this before, we did turn off. I think there was a certain way of talking about issues for
Hey
Democrats
Sherry, how
where
you
we
doing?
sounded like scolds. And
I'm doing well,
I've
thank
said
you.
this before. There was a virtue signaling that made it seem as if ordinary folks, if they did not say things in exactly the right way or meet this litmus test, that they were being uh, chastised, pushed away. And the truth is, most of us, all of us, are complicated, and we have blind spots, and sometimes we say dumb stuff, and and if you want to create an environment that is welcoming and makes people feel, okay, there's room for me here, then the message and the story we tell has to be, all right, none of us are perfect. All of us count. We all have good in us that we can tap into. We can all learn from each other. And I think that is something we need to recover. That's part of the fun of politics. That's part of the community and the social bonding that can come about. And we saw that in Minneapolis. I mean, somebody showed me a friend of mine, Michelle Norris, is from Minnesota, and she was up there, and she was going around talking to neighbors and people she'd known for a long time as they were mobilizing protests and activities around ICE. And she showed me a clip of this street band that was performing every night after all these activities had been taking place and protests, etc. And they were just out there and they were playing music, and I'm trying to figure out how they were playing, horns and drums, etc., in like 0-degree weather, because I would not have been able to put my lips on on a trumpet. And people were celebrating what they had accomplished. And it was an embodiment of the values that
Yeah, I'm gonna tell y'all something, man. Barack Obama really captivates people. He really captivates the crowd. He really commands the crowd. Because the fact that we can sit here and play this clip of this interview that the 44th president did yesterday, and we have so many people in the chat, and people are just listening. Everyone is just listening. There's not a lot of chatter. There's not a lot of chat. Not everybody going back and forth. Everybody is just listening to the 44th president as he just bestow his wisdom upon all of our ears in the time right now that we're in this country. He couldn't have picked a better time to come out and make a statement. He couldn't have picked a better time. He couldn't have picked a better time to come out and make this speech, this interview. And the fact that we have so many people in the chat just listening in, not saying much, shows you what kind of president he was. Because believe it or not, the same thing happened at his rallies. The same thing happened at his speeches when he was the president. The same thing happened every time he opened his mouth. That crowd was locked in. That crowd was tuned in to what he had to say. And the same thing is still true today. And that's a fact. That's a fact. That is a fact. I'm doing well, Connor. Thank you for asking, brother. I'm doing well. Let's get back into the video.
after all these activities had been taking place and protests, etc. And they were just out there and they were playing music, and I'm trying to figure out how they were playing, horns and drums, etc., in like 0-degree weather, because I would not have been able to put my lips on on a trumpet. And people were celebrating what they had accomplished. And it was an embodiment of the values that make us care about other people. And that, I think, is a spirit that when Democrats tap into that spirit, then we win. The other side does the mean, angry,
Demagoguery.
Exclusive, us, them, divisive politics. That's their home court.
Yeah.
Our court is coming together. Our court is, look, a great example. Wasn't political. Bad Bunny's halftime show.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah. Well, it resonated. It was smart because it wasn't preaching. It was showing. It was demonstrating and displaying. This is what a community is. And people who did not speak Spanish and have never been to Puerto Rico, they saw that elderly woman serving a drink and the kids dancing with their grandmas, and it was intergenerational, and it was a reminder of what Dr. King called the beloved community can look like, which is not perfect, and it's messy sometimes. And I guarantee you, not all those lyrics were probably politically correct. And if you translated them, and they're people are complicated, but there was a sense of, all right, there's room for everybody here.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is where we win.
Your
What's up, Ray? How you doing, Ray?
This summer, and you've dedicated your post-presidency to lifting up the next generation of leaders, oftentimes in defiance of people begging and pleading with you to stay involved in the political process. And so why is it important for you to defer to those people, especially at a moment where it feels like there is a vacuum of leadership on the left? You are among, if not the most popular politician in America. And so you're right here, And so why is it important for you in this moment to make sure that you defer to others?
Well, first of all, I'm not a politician anymore, and I can't be, right? I mean, I guess technically I could run for, city council or something, but I'm not in elected office. I don't have levers of power. I'm term limited out. And by the way, I believe in the Constitution, and also I believe in my marriage, and Michelle would divorce me even if I could run again. But I've always believed, this has been a central tenet of my work even before I was in elected office, that our job as leaders is to lift up other leaders, to empower others, to find their gifts and help them exercise those gifts. And so when I had left the presidency, I said, what's our foundation going to do? We care about climate change. We care about racial justice. We care about healthcare. We care about a whole bunch of issues, and I work on those issues. Now, right now, I'm spending a lot of time helping to think about how we're going to respond to AI as it's coming down the pike, and it's moving fast. So I care about specific issues, but the thing I thought.
Who said that? Bart, Obama ain't going to jail. What are you talking about? Ain't nobody touching Barack Obama. You can go ahead and get out of fantasy world. Ain't nobody touching Barack Obama. Anybody touch Barack Obama, this fucking country will go into shambles. You know how many people in this country are crazy about Barack Obama? Ain't nobody touching Barack Obama. His approval rating is higher than Donald Trump's approval rating ever will be. Get up out of here.
I could do uniquely. Michelle and I still have the capacity, not just here in the United States, but globally, to inspire and motivate young people and invite them in to this process. And that's what we need. We just talked about it. You look at where excitement's going to come from. It's going to come from the 20, 30-year-olds who know firsthand what it means to not be able to buy a house.
Dr. Balls, your moderator just been taken away, sir. You have just been removed from your moderator status, Dr. Balls. You are doing a little too much in the chat, brother. You see that I'm having a show going on, and I always allow you guys to make jokes and crack jokes, but it's a time and a place for certain things, brother. It's a time and a place for certain things, man. And so I just took your moderator away, and I put you in timeout for 10 minutes, man. You gotta chill out, brother. You really gotta chill out. I'm sitting here doing a show, bro, and I got people in here coming in here enjoying the show, and you saying all type of foul things in the chat, bro. That ain't how you supposed to set an example, Dr. Balls. That ain't how you do that, brother. So you just got your moderator took, and you just got put in timeout. Understand that look, bro. I'm not biased, man. I'm not. Everybody can get this work, man. You know I'm the 86,000 K. I'm the 86,000 king. I didn't time you out for 86,000 seconds, but you got timed out for 10 minutes, man. Go sit down somewhere and figure out what you're doing, brother. Figure out what you're doing, Dr. Balls. Cause you acting like you 12 years old right now. And it's a shame. The shit that you saying in my chat, bro. And I'm sitting here doing the show. You supposed to be moderating, not acting a fool. And you a grown ass man. You a grown ass man. And I just gotta correct you like that. Old enough to be my father. Come on, man. Sometimes you go too far with what you be saying and what you be doing, Dr. Balls. It's ridiculous, man. And y'all know I'm not mean like that, but golly, bro. Let's get back to the video, man. Respect my show, bro. Respect my show.
Know firsthand what it means to see some of the ladder's opportunity being taken away. Have grown up in a moment in which there's more social isolation, right? And so and understand both the good and the bad of social media. And so they're the ones who are going to craft these, the who are going to remake our institutions so that they're consistent with the values that are, I think, timeless. And so what we've tried to do at the foundation has been to identify potential leaders, not just with traditional credentials, not just the kids coming out of fancy schools or with the top grades, or
Hello, Stacy. How you doing?
union organizers,
Thank you, Stacy.
grassroots organizers, as well as journalists and teachers and healthcare professionals and human rights activists. And we've now had thousands of folks go through the program, and these are folks who are doing remarkable stuff at very young ages. I mean, they're setting up health clinics in sub-Saharan Africa, or they're designing new programs for intervention to help with the opioid crisis in Appalachia, or they're working on how do we educate kids and using technology in remote rural areas and Native American reservations. Remarkable folks are doing amazing stuff. And the Presidential Center, which will be opening up in June, is going to be the hub around which all this activity happens. And there'll be a museum with Michelle's dresses, since that's what people want to see.
Yeah.
We'll have some sports memorabilia and some cool stuff in there. But really, the heart of the Presidential Center is going to be the music studio, to where kids are learning how to tell stories through music, and a place to record podcasts so they can learn how to talk about the issues in ways that resonate. And there's a Chicago Public Library in there, and there's an auditorium where young people will be exposed to world leaders who are coming through and can talk about their own journey. And what that does is it builds a community.
Mm-hmm.
of activists. And it reminds people you're not alone. You're not alone in your sorrow when you see some of the stuff that's been happening in this country over the last year.
Mm.
But you're also not alone in being able to figure out how do we push back and come up with new solutions, and how do we remake these institutions so that they work for this generation. And that kind of spirit is what we hope, this presidential center will constantly refresh and renew. This is kind of a social change university, and we want just ordinary visitors who don't think of themselves as activists, as they go through these exhibits and they see what's been done in the past. We want them to think, well, what can I do? And we'll be giving them all kinds of ways in which they can then connect with local organizations and get active in their own communities around the things that they care about. That kind of reinvigorating our civic muscles, giving people a sense of, I'm not going to just sit here and doom scroll or occasionally, tweet some complaint about what's happening, but that I actually have agency and I can actually make a difference. We want to encourage that, and that's what we saw and have been seeing across the country in response to the violations and overreach and lawlessness that's been coming out of this administration. We just have to encourage that and cultivate that, and not assume that it happens on its own. I became president because very early on in my career, I had people teach me the power of community and other people joining together around common interests. And I tried to manifest what I had learned in every campaign I ran, and try to ride that all the way through my presidency. And I didn't figure out all that stuff on my own. And we have a long history in this country, dating back to the abolitionist movement and the suffragist movement, and on through the civil rights movement and the union movement. And we have a long history internationally. Gandhi learning from Thoreau, who then inspires King, who then inspires Mandela, who in the meantime, like Melissa, is helping to, and Solidarity are helping to bring down the Iron Curtain and inspiring the people power in the Philippines. And that spirit, that energy, it's out there, and you can feel it, but it's bottled up. We haven't given enough outlets for young people to figure out, how do I become a part of that? And that's this enormous untapped power that we have to get back to.
So I want to do a little bit of a lightning round here, because it's not often I'll get access to the President of the United States. So a couple questions here. Are aliens real?
They're real, but I haven't seen them, and they're not being kept in what is it?
Area 51.
Area 51. There's no underground facility, unless
he would ask them that.
Enormous conspiracy, and they hid it from the President of the United States.
What was the first question you wanted answered when you became president?
Where are the aliens?
Where are the aliens? Who is there a person that you most want to meet that you haven't met yet?
I'll be honest with you. Being president, or even being the next president, I can kind of meet everybody. So I've met a lot of folks.
Yeah.
The person who I have not yet met, and that I'm looking forward to meeting, and I hope I get an opportunity sometime in the future, is the new Pope, who is from Chicago and a White Sox fan. I had the pleasure of getting to know Pope Francis pretty well. And he was legit. There's some figures He's one. The Dalai Lama was another. Is another who they're how you hope they are. They kind of walk the walk.
Yeah.
And my sense of this new pope is he's from that. He's cut from that.
Yeah.
You know, somebody who worked in places that really needed help.
No problem, Doc. It's all good, Doc. I just hope we got an understanding, Doc.
Pulpit, but getting his hands dirty trying to help people. So I'm looking forward to talking to him.
I think we can. I think
at some point I'll probably have. Yeah.
What world leader did you like the most and the least?
There are a lot of world leaders I enjoyed. Angela Merkel I became very close to because she really was the leader of Europe during my presidency, and we were grappling with a bunch of different stuff. She came from a center-right tradition. I obviously come from a center-left position, but she had integrity, very wicked smart, and we're both analytical and practical and try to figure out how to problem solve, and so she became a very close partner to mine. I'm gonna defer on the leaders I like least. There's enough of a public record. People probably have a sense of some of the folks who I wasn't happy with.
Best prank out of the White House when you were president?
Best prank.
Look, I'll be honest with you. Folks aren't running pranks in the White House. If there were pranks, they weren't run on me, and I didn't.
You didn't pull any?
I tended not to pull pranks. People are intimidated enough by a president. Yeah. You don't want to punch down on a prank.
Yeah.
If you're gonna pull off a prank, it's got to be on somebody who can prank you back, and nobody gonna prank me. Yeah.
All right, last question here: is Tupac alive?
What?
He's alive on my playlist.
I appreciate it. Thank you so
Keep
much.
up doing good work.
Oh shit! Oh, that's funny as hell. You got a chance to ask the president. Are aliens real? Yeah, I believe aliens are real. I've never seen them before, but yeah, I believe. Yo, so I just thought that we're gonna get into the DOJ. We're gonna get into Pam Bondi and all of the scrutiny right now that's happening in the Republican Party and the government officials that they have appointed. But I just wanted to start tonight off with something positive. 44th president. I don't think it was a better time for him to come out and do this, to come out and give his insight on the plight of the country right now. And so I thought that was very interesting, guys. You can go and check that out. Former President Barack Obama, he did an interview on Brian Tyler Cohen's show. And that was 13 hours ago. They dropped that video 13 hours ago today. Today. So go check that out this morning. That's when they dropped that video. Go check it out when you guys get a chance. All right. Now we're going to move on. DOJ is facing a lot of scrutiny right now, okay, from the Democrats and their poor handling of the Epstein files and the redactions. So we're going to get into that, guys. We're going to listen to some commentary on this. And yeah, I hope everybody doing well. Thank you guys for being here. Much love to everybody in the chat. Shout out to Connor. Shout out to Stacy. Shout out to Sterling. Shout out to Dr. Balls. Shout out to everybody that's in the chat, man. Everybody. Obama answers his questions carefully. Facts. Carefully. Keyword. Yep. Carefully. Right? With tact. Unlike somebody we know right now. Yeah, let's get into it. Here we go.
I was at one of the computers. Now, I went over there and I was able to determine. All right. Hello, everybody. I've just gotten back from this Department of Justice satellite office, a seemingly otherwise desolate facility where they've set up some offices and some computers for us to go and review the Epstein files. I think there were 4 computers in the room that I was in. I was at one of the computers. Now,
You're
I went
welcome,
over
Sherry.
there and I was able to determine.
You are welcome, Sherry.
At least I believe
Right now, we are listening to Senator Raskin. We are listening to Senator Raskin, uh, the House Judiciary Committee ranking member, Representative Jamie Raskin. Right? This is who we're listening to right now. He's talking about that they had to go to the DOJ office to look over the Epstein files. And he's going to talk about the amount of redactions that they are witnessing right now. And this is why we still believe that there's a big cover up going on. But I want you guys to take a listen for yourself. Here we go.
a seemingly otherwise desolate facility where they've set up some offices and some computers for us to go and review the Epstein files. I think there were 4 computers in the room that I was in. I was at one of the computers. Now, I went over there and I was able to determine, at least I believe, that there were tons of completely unnecessary redactions in addition to the failure to redact the names of victims. And so that's troubling to us. I saw one document which was an email that was sent by Jeffrey Epstein.
Are we back, chat? Are we back, chat? Are we back? I thought we lost connection there for a second. Nobody answered me when I asked y'all. So I think we lost connection. We back. Okay, good, good, good. We good. We back. We back. We back. All right. Here we go. What's up with it? 2000 lifeguard. What's good? Making the country work again. That's right. You already know. We back. We back in action. I appreciate y'all. We're gonna go ahead and get this video back up and cracking. What's up, Marquise? What's good, Marquise? How you doing, brother? Hope everybody doing well, man. We're gonna get this video back up and running. This is the House Judiciary Committee ranking member, Raskin, Representative Jamie Raskin. He's talking about the Epstein files and how he was at the DOJ looking over the Epstein files and how he's seen so many redactions, unnecessary redactions taking place. And he could not believe his eyes. So let him speak for himself and make your own conclusions right here. Here we go.
Which was an email that was sent by Jeffrey Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell, which was the forward of an email that he had received from some of his lawyers giving an account of a conversation.
You know what it is, Marquise.
Between Epstein lawyers and Trump lawyers and others about what had taken during that 2009 period. It was during the period of the 2009 investigation. And Epstein's lawyers synopsized and quoted Trump as saying, but he was a guest at Mar-a-Lago and he had never been asked to leave. And that was redacted for some indeterminate, inscrutable reason. I know it seems to be at odds with some things that President Trump has been saying recently about how he had kicked Jeffrey Epstein out of his club or asked him to leave. And this was at least one report that appears to contradict. The Attorney General.
Did y'all hear that? I mean, it all makes sense that that was the case. I mean, because what is the narrative? The narrative is that Donald Trump, you know, when he found out what Epstein was doing, he kicked him out or whatever. He stopped being friends with him, blah, 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 blah. He didn't know what he was doing. He never knew what he was up to. But now they're finding that Epstein lawyers and Donald Trump lawyers were in communication in 2009. And the DOJ, Pam Bondi, had redacted that information. She redacted that information and had that information. They're hiding a lot of shit, y'all. They are hiding a lot of information in the Epstein files. They are. They really are. And this is what they're finding out. And I can't wait until 3 weeks from now because Pam Bundy, Christy Noams has to go back for another hearing as witnesses, and they must go again and face more questions about these Epstein files. A lot of information is coming out, y'all. A lot of information is coming out, and it's about to get real sticky, chat. It's about to get real sticky, real tough. Pause. Pause, pause, pause. Let's get back into it.
Synopsized and quoted, Trump is saying that that Jeffrey Epstein was not a member of his club at Mar-a-Lago, but he was a guest at Mar-a-Lago, and he had never been asked to leave. And that was redacted for some indeterminate, inscrutable reason. I know it seems to be at odds with some things that President Trump has been saying recently about how he had kicked Jeffrey Epstein out of his club or asked him to leave. And this was at least one report that appears to contradict it. Attorney General and the Department of Justice have said that this process was something that was completed by them back in July. These materials could have been released long ago, but they're just being released now. And if every member of Congress who voted for the discharge petition, if all 217 of us spent every waking hour over at the Department of Justice, it would still take us months to get through all of those documents. And there are only 4 computers now, so they would certainly need to get a couple hundred more computers for all of the members. But the point is, so that there are puzzling, inexplicable redactions, and so we need some explanation from the Department of Justice about what their process was and why it seems to have created so many erroneous non-redactions, causing tremendous pain to survivors, and then so many seemingly false redactions that made it as well. Well, we're going to start by posing questions directly to Attorney General Bondi about the process that produced such flawed results and that has created such mystery. But also, we want to get a commitment from the Department of Justice to clean it up as quickly as possible and to get them to release the millions of other documents that are still out there.
Thank you.
Yeah, so they're not done with Pam Bundy. She think it's over with, but they're not done with Pam Bundy. They're going to be putting the pressure on Pam Bundy so hard, right? They're going to press her ass so hard that I guarantee you guys that she will resign. I don't know exactly when, but I'm going to say, Dom is going to say right now, Pam Bundy, she either's going to be fired, or she will resign before the midterms. You heard it here first from Dom. Dom talked that talk. Pam Bundy she either's gonna not retire. She's gonna be fired or she's gonna resign before the midterms. That's my prediction. Y'all heard it here first. You heard it here first, chat. You heard it here first. All right.
Has put them through with the absolutely unacceptable release.
Good evening and welcome back to the Weekend Prime Time. We're going to begin this hour with Trump's Justice Department battling allegations that it has been cataloging the search history of lawmakers who were able to view unredacted Epstein files this week. It comes as a trio of House Democrats sent a letter to Attorney General Pam Bondi demanding that the Justice Department stop what they called spying on Congress members reviewing unredacted Epstein files. In the letter, Congresswoman Jayapal and Congressman Raskin and Garcia called the surveillance a blatant violation of the separation of powers and, quote, further evidence that this DOJ will stop at nothing to protect Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell's co-conspirators, accomplices, and enablers, while denying justice to survivors and the American people. The explosive letter comes after the combative hearing with Bondi this week, where she was photographed with a record of Congresswoman Jayapal's search history of the unredacted Epstein documents. The piece of paper was literally titled Jayapal Pramila Search History. Jayapal confronted Speaker Johnson about the situation. Look at this.
I did confirm to him that was my search history, that she had it in the binder, that there was a photograph of it, that it matched what I searched, and that it was unacceptable.
I don't think it's appropriate for anybody to be tracking that. So I will echo that to anybody involved with the DOJ. And I'm sure it was an oversight. That's my guess.
The new revelations come as survivors continue pushing for accountability over the crimes of Epstein and his accomplices. And during Bondi's hearing, a powerful moment with survivors in attendance became a flashpoint for how far that justice feels for those who've been abused. Watch.
To the survivors in the room, if you are willing, please stand. And if you are willing, please raise your hands if you have still not been able to meet with this Department of Justice. Please know for the record that every single survivor has raised their hand. Attorney General Bondi, you apologized to the survivors in your opening statement for what they went through at the hands of Jeffrey Epstein. Will you turn to them now and apologize for what your Department of Justice has put them through with the absolutely unacceptable release of the Epstein files and their information?
Congresswoman, you sat before Merrick Garland sat in this chair twice.
Attorney General
Twice.
Bondi.
No, can I finish my answer?
No, I'm going to reclaim my time.
I'm not going to get in the gutter for her theatrics.
And Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal joins us now. She serves on the House Judiciary, Foreign Affairs, and Budget Committees. Congresswoman, thanks for coming back on the show. So much to dig into there. I guess I actually want to go back to what we heard Speaker Johnson say there when he seemed to suggest, when asked by a reporter there in the hallway, that this was probably, inappropriate, but probably just an oversight. Is that how you see it? The fact that your search history ended up there for all to see?
No, definitely not. It's not an oversight. I've spoken with him twice now. Look, I think that they are deliberately searching, saving the searches of, and then printing out the searches of members of Congress to use against them in hearings. This is surveillance, and it's utilization of that surveillance to try to attack, to look at all of these documents without being spied on. And I think Mike Johnson knows that. I know that from my conversations with him. I think that it's very unusual for him to say this and criticize the Department of Justice, I'll say, but it is so egregious. And I believe that Republicans and Democrats know that. So we are continuing to pursue, first of all,
justice because of her and because of this administration. She said, what we really should be talking about, not the raped girls, not the rich and powerful men, but what we should really be talking about is the Dow Industrial. You cannot make that up. That is so offensive, so repulsive that anybody would actually say that. But there it was, that times 20 throughout the day yesterday. And I've got to say, as somebody that has known her for a long time, I just feel sorry for her. And I ask the same question her friends are asking. Is it really worth it? What is worth doing that to yourself and your reputation and your country? And this really, of course, comes on the heels of her. And this is one of those Rubicon moments that we have every day. But here's another Rubicon moment. Yeah. Trying to charge 6 United States senators for exercising their First Amendment rights and simply restating military law, simply restating what Pete Hegseth had said before, simply restating what Pam Bondi had said the year before in a court filing about service people breaking the law. But she lets it move forward without thinking. That continues, Willie.
Yeah, and a grand jury rejected that argument a couple of days ago in federal court in Washington. I mean, you're right. It's a question we have asked and could ask about so many people over the last decade or so. Has it been worth it? Was it worth it to give up everything you said you stood for, everything you did stand for in many cases, to be close to power? And you're right. I mean, the insults, the talking points, the performative outrage that we saw from the Attorney General were all outrageous and ridiculous, but what they mask is the fact that she would not answer any questions about the Epstein files, which raises the question, and again, I don't know why they're doing all of this, raises the question of who she, the Attorney General, is protecting and why she is protecting that person or those people, not answering basic yes or no questions about indictments, facts inside the Epstein files, redactions in the Epstein files. Wouldn't answer them, instead went to her notes and attacked the person asking the question, including, as you pointed out, this is the moment Pam Bondi, the Attorney General of the United States, responded to a question from New York Congressman Jerry Nadler, asked her about how many of Epstein's co-conspirators have been indicted. Here's how she responded.
None of them asked Merrick Garland over the last 4 years one word about Jeffrey Epstein. How ironic is that? You know why? Because Donald Trump,
The Dow.
the Dow right now, the Dow is over $50,000.
She went off script. She went off script.
The Attorney General of the United States
We're
about the rape of teenage girls, Joe.
Yeah, we're laughing because she's making a fool of herself.
Complete fool of herself.
She actually thinks
brutally obvious.
She actually thinks that everybody's a 5-year-old in that room.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she's exposed, making a fool of herself. The question is about young girls who have been raped, not about the S&P 500. The question is about people all around Donald Trump. I could list the names, those in government, those in his family, those around him, that are all over the Epstein files. All over the Epstein files. And yet the richest and the most powerful among them, the people, the Epstein class who is running this government, is still being protected by Pam Bondi. Her binders full of information. Yeah, nothing was in that. And now they're desperately trying to continue to keep this from the American people. Who is in the Epstein class that they are trying to protect? You got a Commerce Secretary who's been caught lying through his teeth, saying that he stopped seeing Epstein in 2005. He took his family to Rape Island like 7 years later. He lived next door to the guy. But nothing happens. Nothing happens. And by the way, this is a Republican issue. This was a MAGA issue.
It was.
This is what all of them, the FBI director, Pam Bondi, everybody was talking about the Epstein files. The Epstein files. When we're in charge, we're going to get rid of, all of the hidden rapists and all of the hidden pedophiles out there who are in powerful positions.
What's up, Icy? What's up, Icy?
It's a cover up. They keep covering up, and it's not just the Democrats on the committee saying it. Thomas Massey of Kentucky, who, by the way, Thomas Massey of Kentucky is saying this same thing to Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, and all these other MAGA supporters were saying before the election, before they had the power to actually release the Epstein files. Now that they have that power, it looks like a cover-up. So Massey, of course, co-sponsored the discharge petition for the release of the Epstein files. And this is what the Republican had to say to Pam Bondi yesterday.
Need internet? Cox Internet has the fast, reliable speeds.
Are you able to track who in your organization made this massive failure and released the victims' names? Are you able to track who it was that obscured Les Wexner's name as a co-conspirator in an FBI document? Do you have that kind of accountability?
I believe Wexner's name was listed more than 4,000 times.
Yeah, I already told you that. This is where he's listed as a co-conspirator.
Finish my answer. Come on, let me finish my answer. We corrected that within 40 minutes. He was already, you're acting like everybody's trying to cover up Wexner's name.
Reclaiming my time. My time, Mr. Chairman.
How this works.
Can I have my time? Mr. Chairman, the gentleman can give her answer. The time belongs to the gentleman from. All right, I'm reclaiming my time. So I'm going to put the language of the bill up on the screen.
Chairman, may I give my answer on that? Here's a political joke, and I need to give my answer on that.
We'll let the Attorney General respond, and then the gentleman can move to the next question. It's my time.
Within 40 minutes, you asked me a question. Within 40 minutes, Wexner's name was added back.
Within 40 minutes of me catching you red-handed.
Red-handed. There was one redaction out of
he's
over
listed as a co-conspirator.
And we invited you in. This guy has Trump derangement syndrome. He needs to get. You're a failed politician.
I want you to watch
the Chairman, please restore his time and remind the witness of the rules here.
There is no credible information. None. If there were, I would bring the case yesterday that he trafficked to other individuals.
Is that your position as well?
My position is any victim who comes forward, of course, we would love to hear from them. 1-800-CALL-FBI. Did you ask Merrick Garland that the last 4 years? Did you talk about Epstein?
I'm reclaiming my time. I'm glad you're asking about Merrick Garland. Because this is bigger than Watergate. This goes over 4 administrations. You don't have to go back to Biden. Let's go back to Obama. Let's go back to George Bush. This cover-up spans decades, and you are responsible for this portion of it.
Yeah, the cover-up spans decades.
Basically,
and she said that she thinks she's now the face of the cover-up for this administration, and she can keep trying to talk over people, but that doesn't obscure the fact that she's part of a huge cover-up.
It was
right
a
now.
very helpful display.
There's all these redactions. It took him forever to do it. She wouldn't even let him read. Think about this. She would not even let him read the law. She started into her petty little insults because she did not want a United States congressman to read the law that passed the House of Representatives 427-1. And she said she was ready to hear from the victims. No, the victims stood up and she refused to turn around and even look at them. Let me say that again. The victims, there were many victims who were there, and Pam Bondi refused to turn around and even look at them. Instead, she comes with these literally insults. If I'm that, what does that make you? Basically, is it a failed lawyer or burned out whatever or Trump derangement? No. Those that have Trump derangement syndrome are those who've basically thrown all of their professional careers overboard because they're so deranged at trying to get into the good graces of Donald Trump that they will literally ignore child rape victims when they're right behind them.
So if we could put that shot up where it's
Absolutely. Absolutely, y'all. So that's what's going on tonight, chat. We're going to go ahead and cut the live on this segment tonight. To all my people that normally come in here, man, we're going to start the live over in about 1 hour. It's going to be just a regular live, but I've already touched everything I needed to touch in this live in regards to DOJ and the scrutiny that they're underneath right now. So we're going to be paying attention to this story in the near future as Pam Bondi goes back into another hearing soon. I know they got Kristi Noem coming up again in 3 weeks. She will have to go into a hearing. She will be getting questioned on a witness stand coming up soon. I can't wait to see that one. Christy Nome. And so, anyways, chat. Have a great night, everybody. Like I said, I will be live again later on, about an hour or so. So if you're up, come back and holler at me. If you're not, we'll talk to you guys later on. Stacy, thank you so much for your help. All my moderators, I appreciate all of y'all. And yeah, man, y'all have a great night. I'll talk to y'all soon. All right. Peace out.